Hello and welcome to Conversations with Leaders. My name is Miriam McLemore and I'm an enterprise strategist with AWS. More than ever, education is undergoing some radical change thanks to technology, data, and distance learning. I am so thrilled to have the opportunity to speak with Kathy Vieira, an education innovator and thought leader, and currently the Chief Strategy, Marketing, and Portfolio Officer at Blackboard. Kathy will share with us her experience and perspectives in driving change in an industry that impacts everyone's lives. Kathy, welcome.
Thank you.
We are just thrilled to have some time to speak with you today and learn a little bit more about Blackboard, which is really becoming a commonly known platform as it supports the education of our children. Could you tell us a little bit more about your role and Blackboard specifically?
Sure. So Blackboard is an education technology company, a global company, and my role there is Chief Strategy, Portfolio, and Marketing Officer. So I'm responsible for corporate strategy, product roadmaps, and then how do we take those products in our vision to market. So I have that view of from beginning to end across Blackboard.
Well, and Blackboard is a global company, right?
That's right. Yeah, over 150 million users using our products today, and we are definitely global, about 80 countries.
Wow. Yeah, so, education absolutely is, particularly in this pandemic, having 3 children myself, is critical to our life and continuing to grow economies around the world. Can you share with us some of the ways that Blackboard has had to respond in these challenging times?
Oh, wow. It has been a crazy year. We saw at the very beginning of the pandemic, starting to see huge increases across our platforms, working closely with our clients, understanding that in a matter of weeks or days even, they were going to go from fully in-person to fully online. And we had to react quickly in order to be able to support that quick change that was happening across the globe.
Yes, so, you'd think in some ways education is one of those industries that's ripe for disruption. It feels like we're proving that you can learn virtually. Can you talk a little bit about, that change and the pivot that you're seeing with universities and secondary education?
Yeah, so, online learning has been around for over 20 years. I joined Blackboard almost 17 years ago, and, we were doing online learning then. What happened during the pandemic was instead of a few programs or a few students or a few professors or instructors being online, what happened was 100% of students were online, in some places across entire countries and across entire institutions. And, that change, that shift from a few people being online to 100% of people being online really was a seismic shift in the industry.
Yeah, it's interesting to me. It makes education accessible, right? That maybe was not at the same level of accessibility before. Is that an impact or result that you are seeing as well?
Yeah, it made it accessible. It also made it something that people were more accepting of. So there were, in some places there would be a few sort of people that were more, evangelists for online learning, I guess is a way to describe it. But a lot of the institution was saying that's not for me. I need to make that face-to-face connection. And what I think has really happened is the acceptance of online learning as a way to reach students and can be successfully reach students and get good outcomes. I think that the change has really happened, that it is, people are feeling more welcoming of online education and believe that it is an effective way to teach our students today.
And now you have these leaders, they base in their homes, in your home via, the online environment that we're all operating in. Is that creating a different relationship also between teachers and their students, do you believe?
Yeah, well, one thing that we've found is when a teacher is teaching a student, it's a one-way communication often, right? You may get some nods or, kind of being able to read the room. But what happens in a session that's a remote, if you're looking at just, synchronous learning where, like we're doing now, we're talking synchronously, there's this concept of a chat, area. And so what we've actually heard feedback that students in some ways are more engaged because they're seeing this chat going on as the professor is teaching, as the instructor is teaching. There's a chat like kind of discussion. And in some ways, it actually gives the professor that immediate feedback that says, wait a minute, this is interesting to students, or they're not getting the point here. So it's actually in some ways, brought in more engagement than you might get just when you're just lecturing and not allowing that kind of interruption in the middle of your presentation.
Yeah, it is a fascinating, cultural change, technology change, and you guys are at the forefront of it. What are some of the things, because you didn't expect this, nobody expected quite this level, right? What were some of the things that you had to do as a leader to get your team ready, to get the technology ready?
I'll just give you a little fact. We have an online collaboration product, and that collaboration product has seen a 9,000% increase from a year ago today. So just think about how you would have to scale that. And we worked so closely with our AWS colleagues, kind of got a war room going. We could tell from our deep interactions with our clients that they were going online tomorrow, the next day, the next week. And in some cases, it wasn't just a college student that was going on for an hour 3 times a week for a class. Some cases it was, every student in the elementary schools that were going to be on this Collaborate product for 6 hours a day. So we needed to scale in a matter of days. And so we worked, we had a war room going, and we focused on how do we scale up to the maximum number that we could possibly believe that we were going to get in the next few weeks. And then as time went on, we were able to scale that back and also really fine-tune, working again with our AWS colleagues, fine-tune our auto-scaling so we could go up, during the day, go back down at night, go back up and be ready for the next morning. And it was really 24 hours a day monitoring and working together to get the technology where it needed to be, not only for that short-term burst, but across the globe to sustain it. And really, we've not seen those numbers go down since March. We're still at those high numbers. In fact, from the spring to the fall, those numbers are even higher across the board on all of our products.
Well, and I can also imagine not all educators were ready to take advantage of your platform. Some were, already into leveraging technology, but I know from Meet the Teacher events that not all were ready to give up their actual Blackboard. Can you talk a little bit about what you had to do to kind of onboard students, onboard teachers, so that they were productive?
Yeah, this is where really working with our institutions and our partners was so important because, we found that different faculty members were at different levels of knowledge. So anywhere from, I want to talk about best practices around how can I do something better with our discussion boards, or how can we use synchronous like today versus asynchronous is sort of, working at a self-pace. And then we had, professors that had never logged in. Where is the online button? They had their set of, mimeographed copies of documents that they handed out every day. Nothing was online. And so we had to really pivot and look at providing the right level of instruction and the right level of support, depending on the level that the person that was using our product needed. So we went everywhere from webinars to blogs and best practices, to our community site grew substantially as people were working collaboratively with each other across the globe to say what's working for you, what's not working for you. So it was a very interesting transition from a client perspective. And then clients were changing so quickly with what their plans were. And I'm sure lots of people out there experienced this, where one day it was going to be fully remote, the next day it was going to be hybrid, the next day it was going to be in person. And we had to adjust every time that happened because, when you're talking about the scale that we're at, it made a huge difference if, it wasn't just one school that was making that change. It was hundreds of schools, thousands of schools that were making those changes. And we had to be able to quickly adjust based on that. Well, it's pretty amazing if you think about what our education community did in these last few months. I mean, handed out laptops, handed out Chromebooks, handed out hotspots, enabled students to find access to internet in any way that they can. And I think if we reflect back on this period as an education community, we should all just be, proud of ourselves that it's a pretty amazing thing that we've been able to pull off in such a short period of time.
I completely agree with you. I had, prior to any knowledge of the pandemic, AWS had done a service project to a group here in Atlanta that provides laptops to school children, right? And so we were in there resetting up, wiping laptops, setting them up with all the right programs that they would need in school. But the demand on those type of organizations providing the technology to enable students that didn't have these, this capability in their homes.
Yeah, and what we saw is using our product in ways that had never been used before. As I said, having students be 6 hours a day focused on a screen is very, very different than what we saw for usage patterns. We had a lot of institutions buy our learning management system between the spring and the fall because they didn't have that online learning environment for students. So, it's been a pretty interesting run from advancing technology across the industry.
Yeah, so what are your thoughts on how this is going to change for the student and teacher interaction and gosh, no one seems to know when and if we come out of this and kind of what state we'll be in. Do you guys think about kind of what does this look like 3 months, 6 months, 9 months out?
Yeah, so we really feel that this has established a set of expectations from faculty and from students. Students want a personalized learning experience. And we know that a personalized learning experience is going to lead to better outcomes. So we believe, and I believe, that this genie is out of the bottle, so to speak, that going forward, we're not going to see 100% of going back to class or 100% online. We're going to see that blended learning where some students in some parts of instruction may happen face-to-face, but there will always be that component where there is a remote component, whether it be a student that wants to consume content in off hours because of their work schedule or their childcare needs, or the flipped classroom where some learning is done offline and then brought into the classroom for reinforcement. Having an environment that is really personalized to what that student needs at that time, fueled by the data that we now have that says what works and what doesn't work. We believe that is going to be sort of the new normal going forward.
Yeah, so we've talked about teachers and professors, we've talked about students, but there's also adult learners that you support in corporations and governments and military. Can you talk a little bit about that audience?
Yeah, so we actually have quite a large community of government contracts that we support. Being in the DC area, this has been part of our business for the last 10 years or so. We are FedRAMP certified. We did tailored FedRAMP first and then FedRAMP moderate. And we're continuing to invest in those environments so that we can support even the higher requirements for certification. We're very proud of the fact that we are the only EdTech company that is an AWS government competency partner. And we run in GovCloud. I'll give you a great example. The Arming and Training Center, TRADOC, they had to close down all of their residential programs during the COVID crisis, and they increased their license to, now we have over 575,000 users using our environment to do the training that they normally would have gone to on site. And across all of the government agencies, the things that make us attractive to them is that we have various ways of learning. We have our collaboration products, so if you want to do things like communities of practice, if you want to do job training, if you want to do that, remote learning, it all can happen across all of our products. So it is a growing and important part of our business, and it's a place where we continue to invest to work with our government partners.
So Kathy, you now have some great capabilities to deliver personalized learning. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so, one of the things that, I guess the benefits of everybody going online, it allowed us to really look at the data. We've built the foundation for our data over the last few years, but now we had a critical mass of data, and we could look at it to say, what was working, what was not working, how are students able to be more successful? Is content good? What are the best practices? We're very committed to personalized learning fueled by data. And the cloud allows us to do that with tools like Amazon's QuickSight tool, which allows us to take the data that's in the cloud and create valuable insights, not only for ourselves, but for our clients, so that they can look at how they can improve student success and outcomes. And we can use that data to influence how we move forward with our platform and with our products. And of course, all this data is sitting in the cloud, and it really has influenced how do we create that personalized learning experience for a student to get the best outcomes. And we're already started to implement some of those things, like we have a new product that we're bringing out, which is called Blackboard Assist, which will say at the time of need, here are some available resources for you. It may be tutoring, it may be asking a question to a service. It could be working with your faculty member, but really trying to use the data that we've seen around what is helping students to be most successful to influence how we present things back to them in their everyday learning experience. And that's been a great outcome of this COVID crisis, is that we were able to gather that data using AWS and the cloud services to really drive improvements in our products and think about how we want to move forward with an even more personalized experience in the future.
Now, you've also talked about the scale that you've reached and the global nature of your business. Can you share a little bit more about that and some of the things you're most proud of?
Oh yeah, so there were some interesting things that every primary school student in the country of France was using our product 6 hours a day to be taught by their teachers. That's pretty amazing fact to me. We also just across the board on our learning management system, on our Learn product, we saw just huge increases across the board around accessing content, accessing tools. Lab tools were particularly increase in usage. So it was quite an exciting time for us to be able to see how our products could scale and how they could support all different kinds of students and faculty across the globe.
Well, Kathy, thank you. You're just a fascinating company, and loved having the opportunity to speak with you and learn more about Blackboard and the things that you're doing to change learning.
Thank you so much, Miriam.